Hello and welcome to the Larger Than Necessary First Player Token Podcast. This is episode 74. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
I'm Pawel.
Oh, that was very efficient.
My
Well
God.
done, but Euan, you were straight in there with your name.
rattling
You
it
did
out.
not. You were waiting for that.
Let's not waste any time with our names.
Yeah, because Pavel's going to speak first,
Alright.
so we can't waste any time here. This is a video games episode. As we've described, there will be mostly video game episodes. I'm going to stop saying that now, though. I'm starting every episode by saying that. So we're going to be mostly doing video games episodes at the moment. We will get a board games episode out to you soon enough. But for now, let's... do we need to do any... How are you doing, lads? Do we need to do any of that?
I was going to say
let
that...
Pavel start talking?
That would have been very quick if you just let me do my thing now. I find it hard to believe.
I'm trying to save time.
Are we preparing for my very, very quick sort of review of things?
Yeah,
You do go on a bit.
Our last episode was quite long.
It was quite long.
And it's been blamed on me, I'm sure.
Let's keep this one shorter, Pavel.
Right, so let's say I have what? Maybe 20 minutes? 30 minutes?
Yeah, what are
I
you going to talk
think
about?
you're being optimistic there.
Is it
And you're eating into your 10 minutes.
Yeah.
is it Candy Crush Saga, Pavel?
It's oh God! Are you?
Oh, you can do a good half an hour in that
actually
game.
clawing at the scars of my mobile video gaming, if that can even be called this. No, I'm not gonna call it. In fact, I'm gonna call it mobile just tapping on devices whilst looking at things that are meaningless. That's pretty much the entire content of the gaming section of whatever Apple Store.
There's no need to call us meaningless.
What? Sorry, I got agitated because I played Fallout Shelter the other day and it's still staring at me.
Have you given up on it
Stop
yet?
playing it.
Oh God, yes! Yeah, I've not touched it since I talked about it. Because, I might die eventually and on my deathbed I will think about the time wasted on this.
That's good that you can come and exercise those demons on the podcast.
Yes, it's actually a bit therapeutic.
Have you been playing anything, Pavel?
Hello, I've been playing games, and by games I actually mean games. So, and by
It's
games,
in more than one.
Yes, man.
And actual games, not Fallout Shelter.
Actually, there is a longer story to it. There you go.
Can we have the short version?
No, the short version is, ever since Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, it's actually been difficult to find something that would feel meaningful, and I had to find games that aren't in any way similar in order to actually enjoy them. Because otherwise it's just nothing is as good. So, and that's unfortunately also what led me to Fallout Shelter for very briefly. I keep coming back to Total War Warhammer because it's I think Scots say it's a beaut. Is that what Scots say?
A beaut.
Yeah, it's a beaut.
Good use of the local lingo there.
And every time I come back to Total War Warhammer, and I've never finished it, by the way, because it's a massive game. And if you obviously you can play just a single battle, whatever skirmish or even a bigger battle, and you'll be done within an hour. But I always play campaigns, which will take you months if you're like me and you only play a couple times a week. But my point is, and there's right now there's even, I'm going to say 5-6 different types of different campaigns as such. I've never finished a single one of them, but every single time I come back to Total War, it's always a different faction. And I think any players who've ever really attempted a Total War game as such, or just a strategy/tactics game, really should at least once give it a try and see what it's about, because it's like a bloody wet dream of whoever likes strategy games, and the variety of what's on offer there at the moment already is, and there's gonna be even more, but it's already like beyond anything I even expected when I knew this game would get released. So you start playing with whatever standard faction you might have, and you get the grasp of what Total War Warhammer can be, and it's already amazing. But as soon as you pick up another faction, you'll see how hugely different it can be in terms of gameplay on the battlefield, tactics, in terms of the way you manage the overall world level strategy and even economics. I've just picked up dwarves recently, and I'm having such a huge amount of fun with it. And it's not just strategy, but even just them being really, I suppose, it's the rich Warhammer lore that you can see just bursting through this game. Every single quest, every little bit of faction mechanics, the way characters speak, the way they interact. There's so much stuff going on there, and yeah. So I've been doing that, and I don't think I've seen such huge, meaningful differences between factions as I'm seeing now playing dwarves, who differ so hugely from the factions I've played in the past.
I suppose this is the advantage of the Warhammer license, is that a lot of that stuff is baked in already, so it's easy for them to draw from that. Like if you play the tabletop game, the different armies in the tabletop game
would have been
play very differently.
Yeah.
It's by design.
So all those concepts have been tested in time and polished up, and now all you do is you just need to port them to what's already a very good mechanic, as in Total War has released so many games in the past. So it all feels like it's been heading in this direction. And it's a good time to be alive and play Total War.
Does anybody ever finish a campaign of Total War?
I've never finished a campaign in any Total War game.
I'm getting there now to the point where, you know how in Warhammer there's always the end times coming?
Yeah.
And the forces of chaos spill from the north. I've actually managed to push them away. So I'm beginning the very strange sort of period of old world warfare where chaos is essentially retreating, and you can start probably just beating everybody else that's not agreeing with you. And I'm a dwarf, which means I hold grudges, which means anybody that wronged me, my gameplay mechanics force me to just take my revenge no matter what. Dwarves have, and especially in this setting, and also in this particular game, so much more personality than in any other fantasy setting you would have seen, whether it's Lord of the Rings or dwarves are everywhere, Warcraft, you name it. But it's Warhammer where dwarves actually are truly properly fleshed out. And yeah, I'm getting there. I would have finished the conventional campaign by now because chaos has been now repelled. But there is a longer campaign. I think the actual proper name of it is the Long Campaign, where apart from just surviving the
I can feel the sweet lore. It sounds really strong there.
There's a number of more, I'm going to say, narrower campaign themes as such.
What, the short campaign? Is that one
the classic old world short campaign is essentially become your faction, build up, I suppose, just spar with your traditional enemies, and eventually chaos comes and you have to just survive that. The longer campaign is much longer than that. I don't know if I'll actually be able to finish it, because I think I have to unite possibly all the dwarf hordes, which means there's dwarves scattered around most of this world in various mountains and the like. Dwarves like mountains.
Yeah, they do. But Pawel, did I tell you that I bought this game. I bought Warhammer Total War.
Okay.
I've never played it. It's just it's one of these. I got it in the Steam sale the end of last year. Just the first one.
It was a good sale, the one.
Yeah, that was a good sale last year. But I picked it up and it's just sat on my computer, because you really need to dedicate some time to these games. You do, yes, because
obviously you've played Total War.
I've played a lot of the Total War games,
and it shames me in a way to say it, but compared with Warhammer, proper jewels like Shogun or the other early games, they're really shallow. in terms of variety and in terms of commitment to what this game can be compared to Warhammer. So, like, just play it, man.
Well, I'll give it a go at some point, probably like 2 years' time or something like that.
I'm a bit out of touch with Total War. Have they done anything to tone down the level of micromanagement that you need in the campaign? Because that was always the issue for me, and that's why I always would start new campaigns rather than finish previous ones, is because the game used to get really, really bogged down, and to the point where it wasn't really that much fun anymore.
I don't know, it depends on what sort of fun you look for in Total War as such. Obviously, I would think that the battles themselves are the real meat here. But there are players that would actually always just sort of auto-play through battles, as in just move the actual armies around the map, but as soon as the battle comes, they would just auto-resolve them. Whereas, obviously, I would rather, even if I have an army of 20 units, which is the maximum size, plus maybe even, another army backing it up, just besieging a fresh settlement with 5 defenders, I would still play it in manual, even if just for the sheer satisfaction of seeing the dwarven artillery just pounded it until there is nothing left and I lose not a single soldier. That's nice. There's a part of me, this is the Polish war-loving thing in me that's just thinking, there's nothing better than artillery.
You like crushing villages of farmers.
I like see if you get this dwarven king, and dwarves have a little bit of a height problem, obviously, and you get your diplomacy window open up, and there's maybe a faction leader from another country coming up to maybe negotiate some peace, maybe, or trade, and you say, I am the High King. I will hear you beg now. And, I don't need anything else. That's pretty much that. That's the game for me. It's so satisfying, honestly. But micromanagement, lots of it. I'm sure you can attempt to automate it, but you're just going to weaken yourself by it. You've got, especially if you're playing the longer campaign, in which case you're going to find yourself with, 30, 40 cities, say a dozen provinces or more. You do want to specialize some of them. You do want to manage your armies in some way that will not empty your coffers. There is a lot of diplomacy here that's important. Who do you strike your alliances with? Who do you maybe attempt to assimilate? If this is something that you don't find entertaining, then it would be skirmish battles for you, or historical
Warhammer historical battles.
Well, sort of, as in famous battles from Warhammer lore that you would rather probably enjoy more than the campaign as such.
Oh no, slightly different now that I think about it. Did Games Workshop not create a historical battles thing not that long ago? I'm sure they made they basically just used the same system, I think, but well, like historical things. I don't think it lasted.
I think they attempted, but I'm sure I've seen
that
some
just
miniatures.
popped into my head when you said that there.
I'm sure I've seen miniatures, yeah.
Pawel, you've eaten into like 10 minutes of your 12 minutes, so you want to hurry up with the next game that you want to talk about.
Oh my god! Yes.
Alright, we'll give you slightly longer.
Thank you. So quickly then, the next game, which I've played fairly recently, has a very, very cyberpunk title, sort of. It's called Technobabylon. And that's everything you need in a title. It just means what this game really is.
Is it about clubbing in the 90s?
But no.
It does sound like it is.
Ah, man.
I think Technobabylon was like a free CD that was given away with like Melody Maker or
I think you
something.
might be right.
Uncut magazine.
Yeah, I think it was Uncut, yeah.
You soundsters.
You sound like you sound like one of those people from the like Back to the 90s Facebook pages.
Yeah.
Remember Melody Maker?
Just look for associations, everyone. It's fine. We're not getting old. We're not. What was I?
Okay, Technobabylon.
Technobabylon is made by Technocrat Games and published by Wadjet Eye Games. I can actually read that. Technobabylon is a point-and-click adventure set in a cyberpunk setting and presented in what I can probably describe as pixel art, because it's very pixel, as in what you traditionally look at in point-and-click games, which is your usually hand-drawn and static environments, or 2D environments and 2D characters walking about. In this particular game, they're quite pixelated to the point where, and this would be probably my only real problem with the game, sometimes you're not really sure what you're looking at, or you can easily miss something, lying around that you should probably be clicking on to look at or pick up or stuff like this, because it's just 2 pixels.
Is it that really stylized type of pixel art that's become quite popular?
That's that, yes.
Yeah.
It's becoming popular. I can understand why, because obviously by blurring what you're looking at, you're also removing potential problems with, especially if you're an indie developer, with graphics that could be then considered better or worse. If they're blurry, if they're pixels, then just let your imagination fly. In terms of gameplay, it's a very traditional point and click. There isn't that much innovation here, so you're going to have your inventory. Sometimes you're going to have to make strange decisions, what to mix with what, or which particular item to make interact with what. You have that in point and clicks. It's always been like this. Sometimes you're going to get games in this particular genre trying to maybe do things in a smarter way. This game most of the time manages to make you make smart decisions, but sometimes, just like in any other point and click, they will be questionable slides, just weird, or try and fail. But it's cyberpunk, so obviously that already means it's much better than anything else, because that's just the rule. But secondly, with cyberpunk and with the setting comes a few opportunities that you wouldn't have in other settings, because you're gonna have a cyber realm sort of things, like virtual network, virtual reality is usually a part of very cyberpunk settings. In this game, or in this world, it's called trance, which essentially means you obviously. There you go.
This is the 90s.
This is the 90s. So when you trance, you obviously stop seeing whatever surroundings around you, because you're connected to
Pawel,
the.
are you sure this isn't a game about MDMA or anything?
What's the music? What's the music like in this game?
Yeah, there must be some good tunes.
Is it
Must be
banging?
some bangers.
I should reiterate here that my compatriots are all soundsters, and music production as such is in their blood.
I've never even heard this term soundster before.
Soundster, yeah.
That's exactly what you are.
It sounds a bit evil, actually. The evil soundster, Euan.
The soundsters come with their 90s dance music.
So just to say, in a traditional point and click, you've got puzzles that you have to, usually environmental in one way or another, that you have to attempt to resolve by using your inventory. Whereas in this game, every scene will have at least two layers, because you've got your traditional, using the cyberpunk term, meat space layer, and you've got your virtual layer, so trance.
Is there a jungle in this game?
No,
Is it
that
massive?
I know of. There is a tree, but it's sort of dead, and it's somewhere on the balcony somewhere. Okay. Right, the game is smart when it comes to the way it uses technology. You've got your communication device, and using it, calling your contacts, or searching the web is an integral part of solving the puzzles. But it's also just the sci-fi concepts as such. If you're investigating a crime scene, which is essentially just a room covered in blood and torn body parts, and there is a deactivated French-made android with a knife in her hand standing in the room. That's actually the beginning of your investigation, not the end. And to get all the information you need in order to figure out what actually happened, you have to hack into the android, mix up her personality, her memory, a few other aspects of the AI in the android using various other personality and functionality nodes that you take from other devices in the apartment, for example, because some of these devices will have a more different personalities again. It's all about AI and stuff like this. You play several different characters in the game. The plot is obviously, as you would expect in Cyberpunk, there's going to be some sort of conspiracy there. There's terrorism, you name it. The world is actually very well presented and very well crafted, and the game has plenty of mature themes to it. There is enough humor to keep it fresh, and it's really well rounded. I must say, I might be biased because it's Cyberpunk, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I've only played 3 chapters out of 10, so there's still plenty to see. Hey, yeah.
So you say you play multiple characters in this, are you?
Sorry, as in not because they're chapters. So you start as one character and you go through the first chapter, and then you jump to another character.
Right. Okay. So I was going to ask, are you like a cyber policeman, or is that just one chapter?
Yeah, the first chapter you're this sort of factory worker living in and social sort of flat who finds herself locked in her bedroom. It's sort of a tutorial level, really. The next few chapters you do play as a sort of aging police investigator that's a little bit hesitant to rely on technology too much, and traditionalist, maybe conservative character with a smart tech sidekick. I'm not sure who the third character will be actually, because that's going to be in future chapters. But yeah, again, the story will jump from character to character. There's multiple endings. Actual interactions are part of the gameplay, as in part of the puzzles. You can, by interacting with characters, asking them questions or making them do things in various ways, you can influence how the game goes, who dies, who lives, what mysteries you've managed to resolve. Will contribute to how far you get in a particular subplot line. So the game is smartly crafted, and I've only scratched the surface because third chapter so far, but really liking it.
Cool. Sounds like fun. What are you playing that on?
Right, that's Steam. I should have
That's
mentioned.
Steam.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, thank you, Pavel.
How much time do I have? Because I can keep going.
No, you're good. You're good, thanks. You've filled your quota.
Man.
That's plenty.
That's plenty, aye. Right, let's move on then. I'll go next, why not? I'm not going to take up too much time here, actually, because I've obviously been playing more Battle Royale, okay, and I just want to brag a little. I just want to do a little bit of a brag.
There we go.
Because if you're familiar with Battle Royale, you'll know that you get these daily quest things to do, and the only purpose in doing them is that they unlock aesthetic things if you get enough sort of experience star things, then you'll unlock the next rank in the battle pass, and then it'll give you some aesthetic stuff. So you get daily quests, you have to log in every day, make sure you get them. One of the quests I got was to finish top 12 in squads. Now, there was nobody online to play the game with on the day that I had that quest, and I was running out of time in the day. It was like 11 o'clock at night or something. So I jumped into the squad mode, and I played a couple of fill games with like other people, and ended up we all just died horrendously and didn't get the top 12. So I just started going in myself, like turning off the fill mode and just going in myself into the squad game, and then just hiding in places. And the first time I did it, I was hiding, and I would move whenever the storm moved, and then I would hide somewhere, and I would move, and I would hide. And I got to a point where there was only about 20 people left or something, and I ended up sitting on top of the roof of a building, and I saw a couple of people walking around. So I shot them both, took them out, that was the rest of their team gone. Then 2 other people came running up, so I shot them both and took them out, and then I ran up the hill and grabbed all the stuff. And then when I got round to the other side of the hill, there was only like 6 people left, and a whole bunch of them, one of the squads, a full squad of 4, had built a massive fortress in the sky, but had left one ridiculously stupid weak point in it where you could shoot it out and the whole thing would collapse. So somebody sitting at the bottom of this fortress underneath it shot that bit out. They all fell to their deaths, and it was just me and this one other person left, so I just went in and shot them to death with a pistol. So I won squad modes on my own.
That's amazing.
Now, I played about 10 games of squad mode last night with other people and lost every single one of them.
Oh my god.
So the only conclusion I can draw is that I'm better on my own.
Yeah.
Like, other people drag me down.
That's that.
Well, there's just teamwork in general is bullshit.
Yeah, teamwork's
The whole
terrible.
thing.
Don't rely on it.
Well, there's only so many people you can fit in a toilet cubicle.
Well, that's it, Dave. That's it. I mean, and if somebody ends up walking around, somebody walks into a wall, makes some noise, that's it. Other people will just let you down.
Is that what you do in this game? Make noise, as in terms of gameplay
People
mechanics?
can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because you can run or you can walk and crouch. Now, if you're crouching and you're not, because you can kind of like do a crouch run. If you're crouch running, you'll make a little bit of noise, but if you're crouched, you basically make no noise at all, but you move really slowly.
Can I just ask, is that actual noise as in sounds you hear, or is it
Sounds
some
you
sort
hear.
of... Okay.
That'll be
Yeah.
picked up by.
It's one of the benefits of playing this with a headset, because
I would imagine.
I recently got a headset, is that you can hear where the sound is coming from
Yeah.
properly. It really does help.
Another question, if I may. Sorry,
go for it.
The whole fortress in the sky building
Yes.
thing, is that a common thing? Because I've seen a
Yes.
video somewhere about a guy who was essentially doing what you've been doing, but by building like an unending ramp towards the sky.
Yeah,
and
the
just
thing is
hiding.
that if you're up in a ramp in the sky, it can be shot out,
Mm-hmm.
and if somebody manages to shoot out all the bits connecting it to whatever bit of land it was connected to, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah, I think from his description, it was all about just always hiding in the storm or at the edge of the storm.
I've seen people do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've seen people do it quite effectively. But I mean, we have won a game in squad mode by shooting out a ridiculous ramp that was so high. It was so high we nearly couldn't see it. That's how far away it was in the game terms. It was just a really faint speck in the sky that built up so high. But we managed to shoot it out and they all fell to their deaths. I still got the video saved, and now it's just basically me pissing myself laughing as these people fall through the sky. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little brag about my solo squad winning Battle Royale.
Come and
Very
take
nice.
him on.
Yeah,
PS4.
come and take me on, aye. I've made myself a target now.
They'll be looking in the toilets.
Now, the other thing that I've been playing, this came out on last Friday, is Monster Hunter World, which is a game I've been really looking forward to coming out, and I didn't realise it was coming out so quickly. I avoided playing the beta modes and stuff because I wanted to play the full game, I wanted to get the full experience. I didn't want to do that whole thing where you have to start again, and like when you get the full game, you sometimes don't get to keep your saves from the beta. But
Beta is not about playing it, but just getting the feel of it.
yeah, but I don't want to get the feel for it. I want to get the feel for it with the full game.
But
so.
how do you
But
do
we're not
when
here
you're
to
gonna
argue
like
about
it?
this, okay? So, I got the full game. Now, I've played Monster Hunter, I think it's Monster Hunter 3, basically. Monster Hunter Try, I think it was called, or Tree or something, which was on the Wii. And that was fun, but a little bit fiddly. This seems to be a sort of... It's basically all the same mechanics and weapons and all those kind of things in Monster Hunter World, but it's just been updated, a bit more modernised and stuff. It's still got a little bit of the fiddliness to it, but I think that's just a sort of Monster Hunter thing. Having not played any of the earlier games, I couldn't really tell you for sure, but I have been told that, yeah, these are very Monster Hunter mechanics. The idea of Monster Hunter is basically, you're just... It's a very Japanese game. It's a very Japanese RPG. It's got all the little cute cat things and stuff like that in it, but it's also got that just that sort of like modern Japanese RPG aesthetic, a bit like Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Very weird weapons.
Very weird weapons, and there's a whole load of them, and that's one of the first things that you'll experience in this game, is that you go through the whole sort of introduction thing where you're going to an island, you're part of a fifth wave of soldiers that are going to this island to help like populate it and explore it and all that kind of thing. And you will go through this whole tutorial thing. Eventually you'll get to this base and you have to pick a weapon, and there's like, I think 16 weapons that you can choose from. And at first I thought, like, I'm going to have to pick one of these weapons and that'll be the weapon that I'm going to live with for the rest of my days. But it's becoming more apparent as I play this game that no, there are weapons for specific situations and for specific monsters, or weapons that will work better against specific monsters. I found that out the hard way, because the first thing that I picked when I played this when I first started this game, and I've still got it equipped, but I'm realising I'm going to have to change around, is a big shield with and I've got a sword, but the sword morphs into a massive axe. Now, as you're fighting with the sword, you charge up the axe, and you can charge it up and then release devastating, really slow but devastating attacks with the axe mode. But then I fought a huge monster, which was a flying thing, and there was no way that I could hit this thing, really. I mean, I hit it a couple of times and it landed, but then it picked me up and threw me away. So I think the idea with this is that I'm going to have to try and use one of the ranged weapons. And the weapons are all ridiculously huge and unwieldy, and there are katanas and there's knives and stuff like that, but it seems that the vast majority of them are just comedy-sized Japanese RPG weapons.
That's the way to go with these things.
There is even a Buster Sword.
Ah, nice.
There you go. There's,
like a lot of Final Fantasy games will chuck in like katanas as if they feel they need to, and they're always rubbish. You always go, why would you take that when you can have a massive oversized sword?
Having said that, guy we know, Euan, he's playing it, and he is using the katana to great effect. It's a faster weapon. I know you can get more hits in and stuff.
Right.
But I think each weapon has its benefits, and it has penalties depending on what you're fighting. And the idea is that you go into each sort of monster hunt with specifically tooled up for the job, and there's like a variety of items and stuff like that. I've only played a few hours of it, so I can't really give you a good overview of the game so far, because there are still things in it that I don't know anything about, and I'm still learning about and stuff.
Sorry, I was just like, because again, I don't know too much about the Monster Hunter series. Apart from like the different types of weapons, are there like classes in the game or anything like that, or are you pretty much all just
It's weapons and armour.
It's about how you equip yourself and
and as you go through, and I quite like this about it, is that as you go through, like when you start the game, you can only really pick chainmail or leather armour.
Right.
They really don't have any difference to them. The only difference being that some of the bits of armour will have certain bonuses. For like the chainmail helmet can give you extra gathering, whereas the leather armour helmet gives you something else, and I can't remember what it is. But all the rest of that starting equipment doesn't give you any other bonuses. It's just the helmets.
Right.
But as you go through the game and as you start slaughtering monsters, so you go out and you'll slaughter a specific kind of monster, and you'll go back to the base and go to the forge, and that'll suddenly tell you, oh, you've got this monster scale or monster bones or whatever. You can make these weapons with that, or you can make this armour with that. And they'll give you different bonuses and penalties depending on things like resistances and stuff. So, and some of them give you really hefty penalties as well to your resistances. And it's not a game where you will go looking to try and max out all your stats. Yeah. It's all about what are you going to go and fight next, and what do you need against that thing. So there's no point in going into a fight with a whole bunch of water resistance armour on if you're fighting something that's just going to cover you in fire, because that's not going to help you in the slightest. You want to get something that's got loads of fire resistance, and some things that can make you have to make some agonising decisions about what you wear, because you can mix and match all the armour as well. So you could just take a bunch of things that give you extra fire resistance and then put something else on that gives you extra just actual defence or whatever. So yeah, it's all just about tooling up for the job. And the actual what happens in the game is that you'll get quests. After the first sort of couple of quests, there's almost like tutorial quests where you hunt some monsters. You can then go and get some bonus little activity things that you can do in events and stuff like that. And you can play some of those things online with other people, so you can form up a team and get your friends involved. And then you'll go out and there's an island, and at the start of the game there's just a small bit of it that you can explore, but it'll start to open itself up as you go through more of the hunts, and you'll start to find bigger monsters that'll have different fighting styles and stuff like that. And the thing is, these monsters, they're calling them monsters, they're essentially all pretty much dinosaurs of some form. Right. Which is why I think you might like this game, Euan.
Nothing better than a dinosaur. Go at this, you mentioned dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We've fought some feathered monsters and things like that, but it seems that the vast majority of them look like some form of dinosaur, basically.
I always got the impression it was dragons, but then that was just from the box art for the old games.
Well, I think the thing is that the idea is that this island has got some dragons on it, and I think that's the reason why you're there, is to actually find out what's going on with these dragons. So we'll see how that pans out. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Dave, you've played some of the Monster Hunter games.
I have played a lot of Monster Hunter 2 Freedom Unite.
Hooray!
Which was on the PSP, and it was a sort of souped up version of Monster Hunter 2 with even more difficult monsters to fight and additional content and online play. And yeah, I played it a ton.
So this all sounds very familiar. Yeah.
It sounds, yes.
Because it feels like the Monster Hunter games haven't changed that much over the years. They're still essentially the same thing.
Yeah, there's a sort of core to them, which you've kind of described, which is based around hunting monsters and the large monsters, because there's cool like filler monsters, environmental monsters in the different levels and areas that you go to, and sometimes you will have to harvest those in order to gather materials. But they're just mostly there for flavor, I would say. The real meat of the game is the large, exciting monsters that you have to develop different strategies for, and like you were saying, you have to use quite often specific, not a single specific weapon for a monster, but there will be some weapons that are better for some monsters than others. You don't have to learn every weapon in the game. Some of them are very difficult to use normally. Some of them are real kind of like skill or specialist weapons that only certain people would choose to play with. Like I remember there was a flute in Monster Hunter 2, some sort of crazy musical instrument thing that was quite challenging to play, but
it's bagpipes in Monster Hunter World.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There are bagpipes in.
There are bagpipes in this game.
And now I have to play it.
Yeah.
Bagpipes and dinosaurs. This is
So
irresistible combination.
A weekend out for
mixture.
you.
So I haven't played Monster Hunter World, but I would say it's a reasonable guess that it may not be necessary to master the bagpipes in order to complete Monster Hunter World.
The real question is, why would you not do it?
Well, I'd also say it's probably not impossible, but certainly a challenge to finish the game using only the bagpipes.
I think so, because I think the bagpipes are supposed to be a support weapon. They're mainly just there for... They basically turn you into a bard.
Yes, though that's right, because Monster Hunter 2 Freedom Unite had online play, which was part of what made it so massively popular in Japan, as people just went nuts for 4-player Monster Hunter, which took away a degree of the challenge and finesse of the game, because the AI wasn't quite as suited for dealing with 4 Monster Hunters as it was with one.
Sorry, a quick one, because I actually was under the impression, but clearly I must be wrong, then that this game is actually some sort of MMORPG that never ends, and you just said solo playing and finishing the game.
I don't know if I would call it an MMO.
No, well, I don't know about the new one, but certainly the previous ones, it was in no way was it an MMO.
Well, I was under the same impression as Pawel. I thought it was meant to be play.
It's definitely online, and there's definitely a case of there are quests that have like recommended player numbers and stuff like that, but it's not necessary. You can play this game yourself. I've only really joined with one other person, and when it did that, I joined in on his quest, and he got a message saying that the monsters have become harder, basically, because I've joined in. And I think that's all that happens. They really just scale it up a little. Now, I don't know, because Dave's saying that that it wasn't suitable, really, for 4-player Monster Hunter against some of these...
Well, that was because it was new. It was still Monster Hunter 2, or, it was still Monster Hunter 1 even, but they kind of added on this online play, so the AI wasn't very capable then. I'm sure this version... they've taken that into account. It definitely sounds like it.
Well, if it's called Monster Hunter World, you would assume
yes.
so, because I think that's the implication, is that this is the Monster Hunter I play with your friends.
But I assume you can play through the entirety of it just on your own. It would be unusual if you couldn't.
I'm pretty sure you can.
People would be upset.
Because the thing is, the online thing is entirely optional. It doesn't force you into a world with loads of other people running about. If you're at the base, you're basically there on your own, as far as I can tell. There is a social hub area where you can go, and then that was the only place I could see the other people that were in the world that I was in. I don't know if maybe that changes as the game goes on, but actually the multiplayer thing's still a bit of a mystery to me. We're still trying to figure out exactly how it works.
This is the way with Japanese, sort of smaller Japanese developers. Is it From Software that do Monster Hunter? I think.
I don't know if it is.
I could be wrong there. But these sort of you get this thing with mid-tier Japanese development studios where you can you can always tell a game by them. It has certain properties. Like I remember playing Vanquish, and I don't know, did you play Vanquish, Pawel?
The title sounds familiar.
Yeah, I mean, great game, but it always has this little bit of clunkiness. The controls were like, these controls are a bit weird. It's like,
I gotta say, Dave, for a person who hates video games, you play a really large amount of them.
Yeah, I just play them really,
it's Capcom.
Really angrily.
It's Capcom that released it.
Sure, okay. Yeah, so that doesn't surprise me to hear that about the multiplayer. That it's slightly opaque as to what exactly is going on.
It has been confusing. I had to actually look up online how we managed to even work together. And it does seem that you can only really work together on actual quests. And like it's to do with you go to a board and you have to post a quest and other people have to go to the board and accept that quest. And it has to be a quest that you are on and blah blah blah. It's I don't know if maybe there is an easier way of doing it, but like Dave says, it is not clear at all. So I'll figure it out, but at the moment it's a bit of a headache.
This has always been part of the charm of Monster Hunter. It is a charming game.
Oh, very,
It's got
very
the
charming.
looks and just the way it plays, and I mean it's a massive grind once you get into it because the crafting in it is huge. And well, I mean, again, I'm only projecting from my experience of Monster Hunter 2, which was quite some time ago. But in that one, initially it seems quite easy.
Yeah.
And then as you get into it, it does become more difficult. And you get to the point where you have to hunt monsters that you've hunted before multiple times in order to get drops from them, in order to make the armor that you want to fight this next monster that you're trying to do. But you've always got like you're not railroaded into being stuck with one monster that you can't kill. There's usually a few that are available to you. So if you're having a hard time with one, you can go and maybe try one of the others and come back to it later, and hopefully you'll have got a bit better because it's a skill focused game. You do get better at it. I remember fighting monsters it seemed impossible when I was fighting them, and then much further in the game, and I look back and go back to fight one of the ones that I'd fought previously, and I was like, I can't believe I had so much trouble fighting this guy. It's really easy now.
So you drew a comparison to like Demon Souls and Dark Souls and stuff, and that's the same feeling you get out of that game as well, where you something like in some of the Souls games you had real trouble fighting some monsters, but then when you go back, once you've done this whole bit, you go back later on in the game, you're like, how did I find this guy so difficult? But you were also comparing the weapons to it when we were chatting about this earlier.
Yeah, because if you've not played a Monster Hunter game, then it might be a little bit difficult to imagine how the combat differs in this game from others, and that's the nearest comparison I could draw is to the Souls series. Because, like I was saying, when I first played Demon Souls way back, that was the first thing I thought of when I played it, was they've lifted the entire combat system from Monster Hunter, because it's that pause after you do an attack. And obviously that varies depending on the weapons you use, and there are fast weapons in Monster Hunter as well. But it's that overhead slash, and then there's this pause where you're vulnerable. So you have to align that with what the enemies are doing so that you don't get pulverized in your sort of weak spot.
But other than that, this is an open world game. I mean,
it's not truly open world. Yeah. You can't just walk out and go and do what the hell you want. It's really hard to describe how they've done it.
It kind of gives the illusion. It's always given the illusion of that.
I think it's the title that just suggested.
But then when ultimately, it may as well just be a menu that you choose quests from.
Aye.
And like get
It's not like Horizon open world where you could just go anywhere. It's not like Grand Theft Auto open world where you can just drive to any part of the city or anything like that. You're kind of limited in what you can do at various points in the game. And you can't really just wander out and just go and do a quest that's in your thing. You have to go to you have to go to this board and post the quest and say, this is the quest that I am doing, and then you go out into the open world and it changes the map depending on what you're actually doing at that point. So, yes, you can go out and wander about and do various little mini side quests and things like that, but it's not, I wouldn't call it truly open world. It's nearly there, but it's not quite.
I mean,
anyway, right, sorry, but we're going to have to move on because we have talked about this quite a bit now. It's gone on a lot longer than I thought. But yeah, Monster Hunter World, it is really enjoyable so far, if a bit confusing, but I'm looking forward to getting to grips with some more of these weapons, actually, and the bagpipes in particular. I'm going to have to break them out at some point, more just as a weapon of annoyance than anything else, just to annoy other people. But Monster Hunter is by Capcom. It is out on the PS4 and Xbox One now, but it is coming out in Windows, but not until much later on this year. So it's
I might wait for the
Q3 at least.
There's always a sort of powered up version. Well, there always has been in the past, so I might wait for that actually. There's like a hardcore version that comes out a bit later.
You do that, Dave.
Additional grind.
Yes.
Right. Let's move on, and well, Dave, you've just chatted a bit. So, Euan, what have you been playing?
I've just been playing loads more Streets of Rogue because I've become slightly obsessed with it, and I don't think I need to play another game.
I'm glad to hear it because roguelites do that to you.
Oh yeah,
You do just get obsessed with them.
This one really is. It's sucking me in, and there's so much in terms of variety, and it just keeps you coming back to playing the game. I mean, I still haven't actually made it beyond the second sort of world, I suppose you would call it. As I described before, you're going up through floors rather than down into a dungeon. The idea being you're in this weird sort of cyberpunk future city, and you're part of the resistance. You've been hired by the resistance to go and take down the mayor, in their sort of weird scheme of just randomly hiring people with different vocations and just sending them off into the city with things to do. And you'll have quests to complete on each floor before you can progress to the next one. Sometimes optional quests will appear as well. So there's various ways of getting yourself experience. I think this was a problem the last time. I hadn't really worked out when I talked about this exactly how all of the kind of sort of upgrade system works. Because initially I got the impression it might be a wee bit like a not quite so sort of full-on version of what Rogue Legacy does, with the kind of improving so that you can go further into the game. It's much more sort of traditionally roguelike, rather than you're not going to get these big power-ups that are going to sort of boost you forward in the game, but they do give you unlock more traits which your sort of level increments will give you, and you'll only get them if you level up on a floor. So for every time you level up on a floor, you'll get that many traits you can add to your character in between floors. So it's become a big thing for me to try and like maximise how much experience I get on a floor. You start getting obsessed about how things work, and this is probably why I haven't progressed any further than the second. I feel like I should have done, but I haven't so far because I keep trying to do things, and it's usually on the I've gotten to the so there's three floors in each sort of section. So I've done the slums, I've done the industrial, I've done industrial so many times I've gotten used to its upgraded hazards, and I keep getting onto the last level of it and quite often doing something daft that gets me killed, and I'm like, oh no, I could get more experience if I go and do this, because I'll be just off getting a next level.
What you're saying there is all very familiar.
Yeah,
because this is just like every rogue I've played. You realise that there's one particular thing you need to do in order to get better things in the game, and you totally focus on that one thing for a while. Yeah. I mean, it happens in Rogue Legacy and stuff. You would just go and run about just trying to get as much of the money as you possibly can so that you can spend it. And yeah,
your head will be turned by that one coin.
Yeah,
and
that's
that'll
it.
be
But then you make some stupid mistake and you're just swearing at yourself for the next half an hour and getting angry.
So I mean, that's the thing, and I'm kind of like, it's the different characters. How you play them is really important, and you've got limited sort of inventory space. I mean, you do have a reasonable amount of inventory space, but the amount of crap that you can end up picking up is quite extreme. And there's certain things that, like with certain characters, I just won't do. So I've been going around quite a lot with the thief, and really the focus of the thief is you have to be as stealthy as possible, and you're actually, in terms of experience, you're rewarded a lot more for stealth. Finishing a level quickly, and not killing people, not sort of like causing loads of destruction and everything like that. And that's quite a lot. So if I'm going as a thief, pick up a load of guns, I'm just going to sell them and get myself more money for more useful stuff. Like wall bypassers and lockpicks and stuff like that, and safe busters and another thing in this is that you can't destroy windows.
Wall bypasser.
Oh yeah.
Is that just a sledgehammer?
No, you can warp through a wall.
All right.
They're probably the most useful tool, really.
That sounds useful.
Yeah, that sounds useful.
But when you're a thief, there's useful things. If you see other thieves about, you can go up to them and you can purchase a lot of the thief loadout stuff from them. And I'm sort of done that. And I've unlocked a trait that gives you a follower at the start of every one of and the follower always seems to be the same class as you are. So you just get a thief coming with you at the start of each floor. You just turn around and go, "Oh, can I get all the stuff that I need?" It's like little things like that where it kind of works together. They're quite satisfying.
Has there been any more updates to the game? It wasn't finished.
Yeah, I mean it's still in alpha. It feels very complete, but it also feels like there is way more that's coming.
Right.
There's something's appeared in the main sort of lobby bit. So you've got your traits. You can go and unlock extra rewards, which you'll get for optional, like sort of random things that you'll get for completing missions. You can buy certain stuff for your loadout, but it's kind of quite limited to like what you can take for your character when you go out. There's also mutations, which I mentioned before. Kind of you can just customize the game in certain ways, either make it harder or make it easier. There's something appeared called Seed, and it just says coming soon, and I don't know what that is. So,
Sounds cyberpunk.
Yeah, could be. There's something as well. When you're playing the game, you get your sort of quest things when you look at the map. There's a little box that's been there the whole time saying big mission coming soon. So there's various things that are sort of
nice
sitting there waiting to be chucked in. It feels like there's more as well that could come along. I mean, at the moment there's, I want to say maybe about 25 or so characters. There's quite a lot. I've unlocked most of them. There's certain ones I just haven't unlocked because I just can't be bothered. They're just not interested in what the character does. Things like the policeman or the slave master. Policemen, you just have to bribe 3 policemen. I never bribe policemen. I just go about doing crimes, and either I'm the thief and I just try and be as skillful as possible and don't get caught, or I'm like the soldier or gangster, for example, where I'm just blowing the place up. Their whole tactic is just like, yeah, use guns, walk into places, kill everybody, and take what you want. And there's more sort of subtle in-betweens as well, with those are the kind of 2 extremes, like the sort of thief and the soldier, and I've kind of been bouncing between them depending on my sort of mood. If I do it, like, I'll go a long way with the thief, and if something frustrating happens, and I'm just like, right, I'm going back in as a soldier, and I'm killing everybody.
Good.
It's high. And the other thing I found out as well is, I hadn't noticed to begin with playing the game, is that you can create custom characters.
Oh.
I haven't really bothered with it too much because I'm having more fun just trying it with like the setup, the characters that are there. But yeah, it seems you can give them various traits. I think you can kind of make them overpowered if you want to. You'll get sort of penalties in like terms of probably points or experience for that, but there seems to be a point system to how you attribute stuff. You can also give them any of the sort of you're sort of left when the controls for the characters left click to attack. Some characters have a right click thing, which will be like a special, like the thief, for example. You can pickpocket people from behind them. The assassin, you can go invisible, and you do more damage from like back attacks and things like that. So you can assign one of those to your sort of custom character. I don't know if you can assign more than one or switch through them. I'm assuming it's just one. Again, I've not really looked into it, but I probably will be talking about this game on this podcast in the future.
Oh, why not? If you've been playing it.
It feels like there's more to come.
I still really want to play this, actually.
Yeah,
I think you will have a lot of fun in this game, Chris.
I probably
it seems like it's right up your alley for just daftness.
I do like daftness.
Yes.
Well, it's got cyberpunk elements, so I'm interested as well.
Yeah. Well, I feel as well it is a game. You get into thematic things, and I know you're not always happy with something that's like a bit of a blank slate, but I really feel a lot of time I'm sort of projecting a story, a narrative on some of these characters.
But see, we've had this discussion last week that Pawel had real problems with that.
It doesn't quite work with that way.
So,
But that's how I feel about it. Is
creating
I get
a story for yourself is probably fine if there's enough elements for me to make it believable.
See,
I was actually unfair on the hack thing because I actually don't like dungeon crawlers as such. The default Dungeons and Dragons, you're in a labyrinth and you're turning left and right. I actually think this is. I feel strongly motivated to burn all the ideas that this is what RPG should be. So this is probably what I added to insult, and also the fact that it wasn't cyberpunk. That was just bad.
You wanted it to be cyberpunk. Somebody should call it NetHack Hack. NetHack, and you can have that. Yes.
Alright, so that's Streets of Rogue.
Streets of Rogue by Matt Dabrowski.
Still available on Steam.
Still going on Steam at a reasonable price, I think. Well, actually, I don't know. I think it might have been on sale when I got it at $5.99. Maybe slightly more than that. But it's worth every penny.
Cool. Okay, right. Wrapping it up for us today then. Dave.
Hello.
What have you been playing?
I thought this week I might talk a bit more about NetHack.
Well, this is not on the agenda.
No, I jest. No, today I have been playing Abzu, which I believe, Chris, you've already played.
I did play this when it first came out.
Yeah.
It's a couple of years old now, I think.
Yeah, it came out in 2016. I should say this is my first review in a series that I'm going to be calling I've Been to the Year 3000.
Okay. That's a good series.
because in Abzu you are underwater, well, most of the time at least. It's an underwater exploration-y adventure thing. Because I think that's the first thing to say about it is...
It's a thing.
It's not a game.
Nah, it's not.
And it really isn't. I mean, I believe it was developed by one of the people who worked on Flower and Journey as well.
Yeah.
Not by the same studio, it's by Giant Squid Studios, but I think the creative director worked on those two games. And it bears a lot of similarities to those two, I would say, visually and in terms of the atmosphere and the way it plays. But I would say even less than those in terms of gameplay, because there is a fair amount of gameplay in Flower, and I haven't played Journey.
I've played Journey.
Was Journey a game?
Journey was a game.
Yeah.
There were definitely elements of game in that. There were some sort of puzzles and bits of jumping and things like that. But I mean, Journey was... I mean, for the most part, it was just an experience more than anything else. But there was definitely gaming elements in it.
Yeah. Abzu
has less gaming elements.
First and foremost, it's an experience.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful experience because it's visually and orally, in terms of the soundtrack to it, beautiful. The graphics... Well, Pawel's looking at a picture of a screenshot.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, still shots don't quite do it.
And there's a subtitle here that says, "Explore, collect, dive, and relax."
Yeah,
is that?
I think that's a fair assessment.
It's the real 4X.
You swim around underwater. It's relatively smooth and fluid to play. It's not quite as good as Journey or Flower in that respect. I think maybe just a little bit less time spent on it, perhaps, because those games were like a real pleasure to just move around. And there is a little bit of that in Abzu, like particularly the little backflip thing. I don't know if you remember that. There's a way you can sort of roll.
Yeah.
This is very difficult to describe, but normally you just swim around and it moves fairly smoothly. It's very easy to overshoot and end up going in the opposite direction from which you were intending to go. But there's this one button you can press, and your little character with their flippers and their goggles and their little headlamp, the sort of weird sort of alien looking character, they do a sort of tuck and roll in the water.
Yeah.
And they don't even go off in a different direction. They just kind of stop, but it's like incredibly satisfying to do it. I don't know why.
Visually, I'm sort of thinking of the weird the circle button thing from the Tomb Raider games. that would make her turn in the opposite direction, but this sounds less useful.
It's not even for turning in the opposite direction. It's purely just for the joy of it, as far as I can see. And the game is full of just like lovely things like this. You swim around underwater, you listen to the lovely classical music. It's all in a sort of slightly pastel-y tones. Slightly, it's hard to describe the graphics. You have to look at them. It's a little bit like it's almost like Wind Waker. I don't know how you describe, because it's not cell shaded. It's not hard cell shaded, but it's got this sort of flat textures. But with these but they're bright pastels. So there's bright pinks and yellows, and then every shade of blue that you can possibly imagine. And there's weeds and things, and shoals of fish everywhere you go, because this is what you see most of the time. Just different fish everywhere, and they all swim around you, and you can ride on the back of the big ones, and they just tug you around under the water. Sometimes there's a purpose to it, but a lot of the time there isn't, and you just do it because you can, and maybe they'll take you to another little place. But it's not like there's a vast environment to explore. It's very linear. You make your way through it and just enjoy it. You get carried along by the current. That happens quite a lot, and those are the best bits. The bits where you're not even really controlling the game as such. You're just whooshing along in a current, and you can move around, and there's fish everywhere. And the odd thing about it is the gamey aspects that are in it almost feel out of place because there's so little game in it. There's like little bits where I can tell where, if I do this, I'll probably get an achievement. There's like these little red shoals of fish that if you hit them, I assume if I hit all of them, if I catch all of them while I'm in the current, probably an achievement will pop up. And there's like shells you can collect. Again, I assume if I collect a lot of them, I will get an achievement. That almost diminishes the game for me.
I would agree with that.
Too relaxed to actually be
I find them very out of place.
It's one of these things where, like, I played Abzu once and then I deleted it. Right, and it's not because it was bad. It's just because I didn't see the point in going back and experiencing it again and trying to get all these achievement things. Because, like Dave says, there's no real game here. So there's nothing. Once you've enjoyed it, once you've seen it, it would be like sitting just watching the same cartoon over and over again. It's just like you've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times. There's no point in going back and doing it again. Just for the sake of it, sort of thing. These little achievement things where you could like catch all the fish and all that, whatever it was. And there was some sort of collection. Was it not like a scrapbook or something that? There's
a couple of, you can collect shells, and then there's also these little things that release fish.
Yeah,
and they're cool. I don't mind the fish releasing things, and I quite like that you find things. It's nice. I wish that they weren't so obviously collectibles, because there's no way I'm going back to fly through the currents to catch those red fish. There's zero chance of that happening.
That's exactly what I mean. I just wouldn't do it.
All it actually does is irritate me that I see I'm missing them. And I get a few of them, and I was like, oh, there's one over there, or oh, there's a shell over there. If I'd gone there, I could have picked it up, but now it's behind me and I can't get to it anymore. It's a bit strange, but they had these things in other games like Flower, and they made a bit more sense in that game. They seem to make less sense in Abzu, and they probably could have left them out. It's like a fancy screensaver. It is. There's this thing called.
That's fair, actually.
There's a thing called Meditate where there's these amazing statues that are like sharks they're like shark people, and there is a wee bit of, it's not story, but there's something going on. But there's like not hieroglyphs, but like panels with paintings and. Or not like cave paintings, and so there's always a thing in games where it's like there always has to be like tribal stuff in games now. It's this sort of ethnic tribal aesthetic that I see in so many games. I was playing Titan Souls, and it's a pixel art game, but it has that same thing. There's stone and moss and pillars, and there's always some sort of ancient civilization, and they've left their mark on the world. And then you can look at it and puzzle about what's going on.
I think pixel art games are particularly guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean, but you see it in
weird,
you see it in this
think about it.
Horizon as well, in the aesthetics of just the way people look. I don't know why it's become. I have so many games that have this on console, on the phone, and on the PC as well. Abzu is no different. But yes, what I was saying is you can sit on the head of the statue and just watch fish. It's called meditate, and the perspective changes to follow different fish, and you can switch which fish you're following, and it just swims around, and just because you can.
But that's just like completely separate from the actual game, isn't it?
It's just something
it's just something you can do in the menu.
You can do it for the you can do it while you're playing in the game,
Aye.
but you could also go back and do it for the menu as well if you chose to, which does make it seem kind of like a screensaver. I'm gonna look and see if there's a way to run it as a screensaver. Maybe just to hasten the demise of my laptop even sooner.
We could set up another of your atomic fishing style machines.
God, yeah, dedicated machine. So yeah, really enjoyed it. The price is way off the mark.
Aye.
It's like console pricing, isn't it? Because I'm sort of not used to seeing like these prices. It's like £15 or something. It's mental.
Yeah,
There's no way I paid that for it.
If I knew what the game had contained, because I just kind of bought it knowing that it was going to be something, being told that it was going to be something similar to Journey, which is something I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll pay the full price for this thing then, and it's not. I don't want to detract from what they've done, because it's sort of like Dave says, the thing is gorgeous and it's really well put together and stuff, but
well, you can
there's
play
nothing really in it.
You can play it in one setting as well if you were so inclined, and
It takes about an hour.
That's probably the best way to do it, is just when you've got a quiet evening, and
Yeah.
sit with the lights off and the headphones on, and just sort of play through it. There's no way. Well, I say there's no way I paid £15 for it. I don't remember buying this game.
Whoops.
I don't mean like I don't remember when I bought it. I remember seeing it in my games list on Steam a while back and going, when did I buy this? I genuinely don't remember. It's really weird.
This is the general problem with Steam. You sometimes go through your library and you realise, yep.
I've got about 300 games and I don't know where any of them came from.
Yep.
Oh no, it was my bank account, wasn't it? So many games that are just like, last date played, blank.
Pretty much. Number of hours played, so yeah, maybe half.
Yep. Right, anyway, that was Abzu.
Yeah.
Who's that by, Dave?
Well, it's by Giant Squid Studios.
Giant
They're
Squid.
the developers. I don't know who published it.
Okay, well, let's draw this to a close then, because we, yet again, have gone over time, but that's just what we seem to do these days.
I'm sure this is
But
not my fault.
Not quite as bad as last week. It is mostly Pawel's fault. Okay, we'll do all our internet stuff. So if you want to email us, that's firstplayertoken@gmail.com, FIRST player token, all one word. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. We have a PSN community, so those are all the larger than necessary first player token, or in some instances just first player token. But Twitter is @1ST player token.
It's just once player token.
Thank you, Euan. We have a website, it's firstplayertoken.com. If you want to join our Discord, and please do, get some chat going in there, it's discord.me/firstplayertoken. My Twitch username is unnecessarychris. If you want to come and watch me, I played some more Hollow Knight last night. I'm kind of roughly about the same area, place as Dave now, but except that we've kind of gone in separate directions, haven't we?
Chris has overtaken me.
Oh, I've overtaken you a little bit.
Kind of. You've beaten another
But
boss.
I think that you've gone to places that I've not been.
Yep, unsuccessfully.
Yeah, come and watch, and I'm still doing my retro Friday nights. Well, I've moved it to Friday night now. It was Tuesdays, but I can't do that. So yeah, Ultima Underworld, still playing that.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it?
I was so impressed by this game. I never played Ultima Underworld when it was big, but I can see why it was big now.
Yeah.
It was the thing back then, yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible achievement considering it came out in like 1991 or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm like, I was watching Chris play it, and I was like, this is way better than RPGs now. They've gone backwards. They've not carried all the promise.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
not been carried forward.
I agree. What we will say is that Dave's new segment, or Dave decided that we should do this new segment, the Retro Games Book Club. We are going to be playing Megalomania for the next one, so we'll talk about that in the next episode, I think. If you want to join in, please do, and you can email us or send us a message on Facebook or whatever your thoughts on the game. It's a game from yesteryear, which is around about the sort of Mega Drive, Amiga. I think there was a Nintendo version of it actually. Now that, because we kind of discussed this.
I think there's a SNES version.
I think there's a SNES version.
Actually, no, there is, because they I saw it and they changed some of the look of the characters.
That's right, yeah, the characters look different. The characters look different, that's right.
And also
and shit as well.
Also removed all the assistance stuff that's in the original game when you hover over things to tell you what to do.
They don't tell you yet. No tutorial tips, tool tips even.
No, and you can imagine the manuals.
Don't play that version,
imagine
then.
the manuals that came with a SNES game, like a couple of pages. It would be basically impossible to.
Yeah, don't play the SNES version, and that sounds terrible. So yeah, the Mega Drive version, but probably the Amiga version is the best way to go about it if you can get that working. I'm sure.
I think either's fine. I had a shot at both actually, and they each has their own charms. The Amiga isn't cut and dry better than the Mega Drive one.
Yeah, because I've only ever played the Mega Drive one.
Anyway,
we'll get to all that when we actually speak about the game. But if you want to join in, then please do, and you can let us know your thoughts before we record. So we usually record on Thursday nights. So if you can get it in before Thursday, the week that this episode comes out, then we will definitely air your views. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Thank you, Euan. I've heard that there's a whole bunch of new shows joining.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we mentioned last week, but yeah, there's three new podcasts on there. I'm forgetting. There's My Classic Album with Mike Norris.
Yes.
Which I haven't had a chance to listen to yet. There's a couple others which I also haven't had a chance to listen to yet. From what I'm told, that's going to be it for new podcasts until around the summertime.
Right.
Just to kind of take stock and
see how we get
assess, on. Yeah, so. But it's still going strong. So give them a like on Facebook and all that, and check out the website.
Yep, so
and
that's
check
Podnose,
us out on there.
podnose.com if you want to go and check out all the podcasts that are part of the network. And that's it for this week, so we will be back next week, which is most likely again going to be a video games episode. But yeah, until then, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.